unpopular opinion. On a TV show called Martin, Pam was always cuter than Gina. But because Pam was dark-skinned and Gina was light-skinned, Pam always got hated on.
Oh God, you should match it, it's that kill. No way like that, still I fuck my 28th up. 1998, my family had that accurate. Oh, the legend.
What's up, everyone? It's Books and Looks TV. Today, I am going to be talking about colorism on the show Martin. Martin was a Black sitcom that aired from 1992 to 1997, centering on radio and television personality Martin Payne. It focused on the romantic relationship with his girlfriend Gina, her best friend Pam, and escapades with best friends Tommy and Cole. Tisha Arnold would appear in a Slate video where a younger woman basically asked her about her experience on Martin. And Tisha Arnold basically said that her character was intended for a fat Black woman and that most of the jokes were about her having a plus-size body. And of course, Tisha Arnold doesn't have a bigger body.
Because the relationship between Martin and Pam was very much like he just hurled insults at you all day. And obviously, you gave it back to him. But like, did it ever for you? Like, did you ever take it personally, or it just like off? You took it as what it was? Or
originally, Pam was written for a heavyset Black woman. That's what the role was written for. When I came in to read for her, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute," you know, because. Of course, I had a nice body then. Hello, I wasn't, but so all the jokes were fat jokes, and by the time when I got the role, they said, okay, obviously we have to change the jokes, but they didn't realize that I was raised by a lot of gay boys, a lot of gay men in my life, out of church and even on doing theater, so I knew comebacks. I was kind of quick with my comebacks, and Martin would say stuff off the script, off the cuff, and he would crack a joke on me, and I'd crack one back. So it kind of developed itself. So the writer's like, oh my God, we got to start writing this in. And that's kind of how that went. We have nothing in common.
Sure we do. We're both built like men.
And Martin had some pretty men, right? Especially in the entertainment world, where you have like people say, hey, it doesn't seem like you're. And so similar to Vanessa Bell Calloway, Tisha Arnold said the same thing about Martin, like where Vanessa Bell Calloway said she was just happy to be in an Eddie Murphy movie. That's very similar to what Tisha Arnold said. She was just happy to be a part of a Martin Lawrence production. And I think it's good to understand that both of these men were like highly successful and at the peak of their career. Some people would say that Black men intentionally destroy the imagery of Black women through their music, movies, TV shows, and other media. So now I'm going to talk about the characterization of Gina in comparison to Pam. So Gina was character played by Tisha Campbell, and Gina was depicted as the hard-working businesswoman and the long-term girlfriend who happened to become the wife of Martin. She was raised in Philadelphia by her mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Waters. I would even say that it was ironic to me that her parents, though they probably weren't seen as light-skinned, they were dark-skinned, and they were even depicted as bougie. There were times where Martin would wonder if he was good enough, or in comparison to his mother, who I believed in the show, it was depicted as he was raised by like a single mother who was loud and obnoxious. So again, you see how colorism and classism play a part in these typecasting of these roles. So anyway, Gina met Martin at a highbrow gathering, and she quickly fell in love with him. At season 3, episode 4, Martin gets paid. It is revealed that Gina has a master's degree in public relations. Gina is a pretty woman with natural brown hair and is usually wearing dresses or work clothes and wears lipstick or some type of light makeup most of the time. When she's upset, she happens to use a squeaky voice, which I think a lot of times was to obviously appear as flirty and to get what she wanted from her man, but it was also to make her appear as more feminine. And if you're someone who's into like anime or K-dramas, you've probably seen this depicted from female characters a lot, where it's kind of seen as like this childish, weird fetish, or like just deemed as submissive. So anyway, Gina is often depicted as optimistic, occasionally misbehaved, forgiving, and eternally romantic. And again, she works for public relations. I feel like throughout the 90s and even 2000s, Tisha Campbell often played a soft role and main love interest in 90s and early 2000 love films. I personally don't have a problem with her. She seemed like a talented and non-problematic celebrity. I'm just acknowledging how her features were often highlighted and how it just characterized her in comparison to Pam. So someone says, I thought about this the other day. I think initially they cast Gina and Pam in very stereotypical roles based on their looks. I know some people would clap back, but it's no coincidence. The light-skinned character was an educated and professional dream girl, while the darker-skinned girl was ghetto, lacking in gracious behavior that couldn't keep a man. But I think over the years, they developed Pam's character because Tisha Arnold's talent was, I think, it's magnanimous, and they realized her value to the show. But even at her height professionally, she was Gina's subordinate. With all that said, I recognize it was only a TV show, but imagine the impact those images had on our generation's already fractured view of darker skinned women. The ish plays on MTV all damn day. P.S. Gina's weaves and wigs were atrocious, and Pam's outfits were thottish, and they both solid plenty of episodes looking a hot ass mess. Now we're going to talk about Pam's character. So Pam, her actual name was Pamela James, and she was a main character on the show where she played Gina's best friend and Martin's arch enemy. Pam is always the butt of Martin's jokes, and she usually is quick with comebacks, using Martin Tight as like the center of it. Pam is smart, and she works in public relations alongside Gina, but as her assistant. I've noticed in a lot of Black sitcoms that brown-skinned women are usually in lower-paying jobs as secretaries, and no shade to anyone who's a secretary. But I just thought it's interesting how like darker-skinned women are often typecast in this role and as gossipy and irresponsible and loud and ghetto. And of course, their boss happens to be lighter skinned. You think of like Steve Harvey's show, Lavita Alizé Jenkins, which was supposed to be even depicting a ghetto name. And then you think of people like Maya on Girlfriends, who is often depicted as irresponsible, taking off work and taking advantage of her friend who happens to be a light-skinned biracial Joan. Pam is a confident young woman, yet she was often depicted as having trouble finding the right man as she went on many unsuccessful dates. I think it's interesting that her character was depicted as someone who couldn't get or keep a good man. Many of the onlookers felt like Pam was sought after in different ways. Some people acknowledged that maybe she was just depicted as someone to sleep with. I think Martin would often remind her of this, which I used to be like, why are you so concerned with her if you're in a relationship with Gina? I know it's TV, whatever. So now let's talk more about the colorism when you think about the name calling. And let me say this, I'm from Memphis where people roast for real, for real. So I know sometimes politics get thrown out, but again, this is a production, right? And all of these things are planned. And again, he chose to say these things more so to Pam, who had darker skin. So first, I'm going to talk about how like Martin pretty much dehumanized Pam, like all of his dehumanizing, but how he kind of like made her seen as ugly through like, a lot of this I heard on the show, but I saw a public thread where people were like, oh my God, Pam and Martin, they used to go toe to toe with each other. Name some funny things they said type shit. And I was like getting the comments out, right? And I just categorized it, right? And I was like, wow, he sure used a lot of words to describe her in horrible ways. But anyway, one of those words was Scrappy Doo. Y'all might know Scrappy Doo from Scooby Doo. Whoopi's Golden Retriever. Horse. Sounder. Angela Bassett, Hound. And then when it comes to texturism, there were names like Bucky, the famous Biddy Bead, Nappy Longstocking, Nappy Nap, Buckshots, Weavy Wonder, Napoli Cole. He also called her names like Mariah Scary, Hallie Scary, and Scarlett Tubman. And a lot of people kept naming this, and so Nappy Wilson couldn't pick it. Now, if that's not texturist, and if it's not dehumanizing, I just don't know what it is. In media, light-skinned Black women are usually depicted as sexually desirable without having any expectation for humor. A lot of people said Gina's character was boring, to just be frank. Dark-skinned Black women, however, are expected to be this character of comedy using humor that is often self-deprecating and or sex-obsessed. Forever wanting but not getting a man. Stereotypical outlandishness. As stated by Kennedy Christine. Now I'm going to play some public opinion and then I'm going to read some.
Stereotypes within Martin. And you're probably wondering, really? Martin, one of the best Black sitcoms, depicts stereotypes? Yes, they do. And colorism. Let's start with the colorism. Y'all cannot tell me that Pam is the most disrespected character on the show. Like, she for real gets bashed by Martin. Like, Martin compares Pam to animals like a bear, a donkey, a camel. You don't see nobody bashing Gina. Cause she's light-skinned, and as a result, she is desirable, unlike Pam. Now we gotta get to Shanae. This character embodies stereotypes of dark-skinned women. She's loud, she's obnoxious, she is very aggressive. And I don't know if you know this is harmful representation of dark-skinned women. Because it pushes the narrative that dark-skinned women are undesirable, obnoxious, and very masculine. And characters like these mock dark-skinned women.
Man, let me tell you, man, I'm going to admit when I was wrong. And I was dead wrong. So when I was younger, it was her who was the hottie. But as I got older, you know, I started going through puberty and shit, I realized, nah, this was the hottie. This was the hottie. Pam was the hottie. Looks, attitude, body, style. It was Pam. But we didn't really see that because every time we on Martin, this nigga Martin is barking on Pam. Buckshot, B2B, dog jokes and all that. And Gina was the main character. She was the one that was going out with Martin. But if you look at it, just look at it now. Look at the pictures now. Who you picking? I'm definitely picking this one. Look at her, sexy, brown skin, chocolate. That, ooh. Boy, oh boy. Ooh. I know y'all agree with me with Pam, man. Pam is, hey, anybody know Pam, tell her, holla at me.
What show did you watch growing up that you can't watch now because you know way too much?
Martin, stick with me, Black people, stick with me. I still watch it occasionally, but let me give you the backstory of what happened. We all think of Martin and Gina as couple goals, right? But Tisha Campbell left season 5 abruptly, which is why Martin was canceled. In the lawsuit by Tisha Campbell, she states that even through the first season, she was getting sexually harassed by Martin Lawrence. And on the 5th season is when she filed the restraining order lawsuit. They had known each other prior to working together, so she said she would get constant sexual advances from them. And then she asked the writing team to stop writing in sex scenes because he would grope her, and it made her uncomfortable. But of course, he was an executive producer, so he got what he wanted, and he would threaten to fire people. In season 5, that's when she filed the sexual harassment lawsuit, and so she wasn't in most of season 5. I don't know if y'all noticed that. But then finally, once the lawsuit was settled, she returned for the final episodes, but she refused to film scenes with Martin, so there was never really them together in the final season. Love the show, but hate that he denies it.
So I was watching the Martin show, and for some reason, this scene right here just don't seem right to me. It's like he said, give me sugar. Listen. I just find it funny how on Martin, Pam had to bear the brunt of all the jokes because of colorism and where the industry was at the time. And fast forward 20 years, she looks the best out of the whole cast, and people ain't talking about it. People are not talking about the irony of it all. Like Martin. I ain't gonna say nothing because, you know, people's health conditions, but life will always ricochet it right back at your front door. Justice for Pam, because she did not deserve all the brown skin, you look like this, you look like a horse, you look like a dog, you look like... And she's handling him with so much grace. Did anybody else notice this? Like, he put Pam...
All right, y'all, we are finally talking about Pam.
You know, Martin, you're a little smart
remarks used to upset me, but it's obvious that you're obsessed with me and that's how you express it. Maturing is realizing that Pam was always that girl. She was beautiful, she had a nice body, she dressed nicely, kept her hair done. But the show really suggested that between the two friends, the lighter-skinned Gina was the real prize. I mean, at one point, Martin literally says it.
So I'm here to find one. That's me. It's my girl. Okay? And who is this sweet thing over here? Oh, that thing? That's just Pam. You can have.
Don't get me wrong, the show did pick on Gina. A lot of the times they would describe her as having a big head, but having a big head is not something that's really related to race or colorism. When it came to Pam, however, a lot of the jokes that he would throw at her were based in negative stereotypes about black people. For example, her natural hair.
Well, you know I'm sensitive about my buckshots. You didn't have to go there. Okay, but there's a big difference, all right? A good job is hard to come by, but they got dark and lovely on damn near every corner you see.
In addition, he always referred to her as some type of animal. Horse and dog were the most popular.
You know how Deputy Dog got them highly sensitive ears. Don't you just call down to it? Don't you speak horse?
And finally, she'd be constantly misgendered and referred to as a man. Remember that masculinity is associated with darker skin.
What do you need a male friend for, Gina? Pam's all the man you need.
Now, a lot of people claim that all this happened because there was secret tension between Martin and Pam. In one of my favorite episodes, Crunchy Drawers, Martin has dreams about them being romantically involved.
Give you what I've been dreaming about all night long. Oh, yeah.
But in the end, he drops an anvil on her, which suggests that the thought of even being with a woman such as Pam is a literal nightmare. Don't get me wrong, to the show's credit, Pam was not helpless. She would clap back on Martin.
Martin, I'm sure you have some lucky charm somewhere hidden on you, little leprechaun. Yeah. Delicious.
The show also showed Pam in a relationship. Remember, she dated Tommy, rest in peace to Thomas Michael Ford, and they never hesitated to let us know that she's an amazing vocalist. Now, Tisha Arnold has been asked, did she find the role of Pam offensive?
Have you ever considered that, or do you look at that and just in the way that, like, the things he calls you sometimes in character?
And she said no.
We as a culture go through that, and it's I never was insulted by it.
So yes, while there was some colorism there, she wasn't insulted, and Martin and Tisha are on good terms. Pam is iconic, and the show wouldn't have been the same without her.
If you watch this show, you cannot tell me that these two motherfuckers did not want each other. Like, they literally give the vibe of when you like somebody, but you constantly, like, making jokes about them or, like, being mean to them because you really like them and attracted to them. Like, whenever they would make jokes about each other, they would get so close, like, they're near finna kiss. If I was Gina, I would have thought something was up because I'm just like, y'all going a little too hard on each other. Like, I know y'all don't like each other, but damn. And it's the fact, even when Gina wasn't really on the show like that anymore, Pam was still going over to his house and, like, they would still hang out. I honestly feel like they should have got them together when that whole thing in season 5 happened, because they have such great chemistry.
What happened to Tommy and Pam? It's your man Jet right here, and I must say, I think Martin is the greatest TV show of all time. But if it's one thing that I never understood, why did the writers pull a plug on Tommy and Pam so fast? I mean, I just didn't get it. Tommy and Pam being together brought out some of the best episodes, like the episode where Martin played the matchmaker and this fool put them two together. Or, I know y'all remember that episode when they had the vacation and Tommy and Pam went to the same resort as Martin and Gina, and man, they fought that goddamn raccoon looking mouse. Man, that episode was hilarious. But just after a few episodes together, the writers broke Tommy and Pam up, leaving all us fans wondering what happened. But if I had to take a guess at it, Pam always wanted a man that had money but was a romantic gentleman. Tommy was a romantic gentleman, but he had no damn job. And Tommy was just a player who got it how he lived. He was always fresh, he always had money, he always had women, so Tommy wasn't tripping. I mean, Tommy and Pam could have been a good spin-off show, but instead we left
I think dark-skinned women are at a disadvantage. Even how we're represented in media, like, we're always the strong, independent black woman or we're masculine, or we're the ghetto ratchet girl. Like, we're never the feminine or the classy, acceptable black person. Like, we're always deemed as this typical stereotype of a black woman. And TV shows like Martin and stuff, like with Shanae, it's just things like that.
If you can admit that Martin has aged terribly, and the jokes were just thinly veiled misogyny and colorism, and at the very least, it's cringe in 2024, I hope you have a good day.
Rewatching Martin and trying to get through the times, Martin constantly masculizes Pam to reaffirm Gina's femininity is not for the weak. The blatant colorism is real. Like, what was the need? Martin could have poked fun at Pam without turning bitter and violently colorist and still have that, I hate you, but you're my wife's friend type of relationship. Pam always been lit to me. Colorism was still more common in the 90s. Barney used to call her every burnt biscuit and things in the zoo while he praised Gina so bad. Oh, Hollywood, colorism, and Martin. Some of Martin's harshest insults were a direct at her blackness, her womanhood, and her hair. A quote I recall Martin saying out to Pam is, "That's so sweet. I knew you had a heart underneath that hairy chest." Martin may have not said it, but he was possibly taking a shot at Pam being apish in nature. Another quote to reinforce Martin's insults toward Pam is when he blames her in the episode and says, "This is all your fault, Pam. They don't want me having pets up in my place." While Gina doesn't have many shots directed at her attire, skin, or even her hair, Pam is purposely attacked for being darker than Gina and, of course, wearing weaves and being louder. These depictions of her further shows a divide between light-skinned black women and dark-skinned black women. While Martin is a dark-skinned black man himself, he isn't critiqued on his blackness or aggressiveness in comparison to Pam. His aggression and blackness is seen as funny and even attractive to the audience, while Pam is desexualized and becomes an undesirable character. Look, Martin was funny, especially if you were a child teen watching it, but there were very much some problematic things throughout, and colorism was one of them. Pam never could have been Martin's love interest, and Gina wouldn't have been the secondary side character friend. Colorism is not just about skin tone jokes. Martin called Pam an animal multiple times. So what are you on? I was watching old episodes and I realized Martin kept comparing Pam to animals and called her ugly all the time. The funny thing is that Pam was better than Gina in terms of style, hair, body, etc. The only insult Gina always got was applehead or muscle butt. The weird jokes I can understand, but the constant references to horses, donkeys, dogs, camels, and bears got on my nerves for some reason. Like, that shit went on till the end of season 5. What's up with that? He did it because she was a dark one. I saw this show as a kid, and even I picked up on the colorism subtext. It wasn't like Gina was anything to look at, and I'm light skinned myself. The same complexion as Tisha Campbell. And Martin is a sexist, color-struck little jerk who was all too happy to play up the dark-skinned black woman, equating her to aggressive, manly beast stereotype. But Pam definitely held her own. He talked pretty bad about Gina too. The joke he made about how he wished he could give Gina hips and how she didn't clap back, it seriously rubbed me the wrong way. So here is my conclusion. I'm not going to pretend that Pam was an entire victim and didn't go toe-to-toe with Martin. I just paid attention to the insults, or rather how he would quote-unquote joke with her compared to other women. Not to ignore that Martin played obnoxious women in his side characters who happen to be dark-skinned because he's dark-skinned, like Shanae, his mother, etc. And I can talk about that in another video if you like. I just think it's strange that a lot of black men admitted that Pam was finer to them, but often don't uplift dark-skinned black women who look just like her. The same has been said about people like Kelly Rowland, where black men would say, "I always had a crush on her," or "I always thought she was finer." Well, say it publicly, or at least uplift dark-skinned black women. I like to also add that the issue with colorism in media and real life isn't solely about being seen as desirable by black men, but the dehumanization of having dark skin, just like a lot of the black men who crack these jokes, and the BDBs or hair texture comments that some black men tend to make. A lot of us look like your mama, and if you dislike your mama, just say it, but stop humiliating dark-skinned Black women. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for listening to Books and Looks TV. I'll see you next time.